Hello and welcome to the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Our guest today is Dr. Glenda Hodges. She's the founder and CEO of Still I Rise. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
This morning we're going to talk about domestic violence.
Yes, ma'am.
And how it affects women and how it affects women in this area,
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
Prince George's County, Maryland area.
Okay.
Let's start by talking about your organization. Tell us exactly what is Still I Rise.
Still I Rise is a community-based empowerment organization for victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. We provide supportive services. All of the services are free. The services include individual counseling. We also do group counseling. We have job readiness classes, resume writing, interviewing. We have a food pantry. We have a clothes closet, personal care items as well. We do free HIV/AIDS testing because a number of our women are, well, I should say victims, because we have some men that are victims, but a number of our victims are concerned about their HIV/AIDS status. So we do free HIV/AIDS testing so that they can put their minds at ease about that.
Well, tell us, who is the average woman who walks into Still I Rise?
She's you and me. Honestly, she looks just like us. You would not know her. You would be seated next to her in church. You might meet her in the grocery store line. Domestic violence doesn't know any kind of socioeconomic level or indicator. It has no look. I should say, at first glance, it has no look. But the profile is the average woman. Professional, not so professional. She does not profile or fit any particular description. She's just a woman who, unfortunately, has surrendered herself, her inside and her outside, to someone who unfortunately does not care as much about her as she should care about herself. So she succumbed to the abuse. Sometimes it's verbal, sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's both.
What is the most urgent service that's needed by
Housing.
women when they come in?
Housing. Because most of them are in imminent danger, and we don't want them to become statistics, but we get more requests for housing than anything else. Because unfortunately, in South County, Prince George's County, South County, we don't have a shelter. The only one that we actually have is the one that is supported by the Family Crisis Center, and that's not in South County. That's in a non-disclosed area in the Lanham area.
So what do you do to assist?
Well, what we do is provide emergency shelter. So we would want to know, if you presented to us for assistance, the first question we ask you is, do you feel you're in imminent danger? And if you start to cry and give us some signs that you're afraid to go back home, sometimes women say no, but their body language says yes. So we'll give them a moment or two, try to calm them down, drink of water, cup of coffee, whatever. And then they will tell us, I wish I could just go somewhere for a couple of days and I could reach out to family members to try to get myself together. So what we've done is we've been able to have a group of hotels with whom we have negotiated rates. So we can put you up for a couple nights, usually not more than 3 nights. And we'll let you stay there while you reach out to family members, because most of the time they haven't disclosed this to anybody. They haven't told anybody about it. Sometimes they will talk to their pastors at church, but their response, the pastor's response, is not always appropriate.
What do you mean?
They say things
like stay there.
The Bible says the husband is the head of the house. The Bible says what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Well, how do you know that God has joined these two people together? If he is abusing you, or if you are afraid to go home, afraid to feel safe in that particular place that you call home, I'm not sure I would say that God has joined the two of you together. So until you really come to an understanding of what the issues are, then I don't think you should say those kinds of things. And then the other challenge is a lot of preachers, pastors, will begin to counsel the women, and they're not licensed to do so.
Exactly. I've seen that
Yeah,
a lot of
well,
times.
Sister Smith, let's just pray about it, and let's start getting you in here for counseling, and I'll see you once every. But are you licensed to counsel? Have you had any kind of training? If not, you're holding yourself out to be something that you're not. I'm a lawyer. That's fraudulent misrepresentation. So you are not doing any good. You're actually inflicting more harm on her than good. So they don't mean, I'm sure they don't mean any harm, but harm is being done. Then the other thing that we found out is these women sometimes are suffering at the hands of abusers who are officers in the church.
Mm.
We have women whose husbands were pastors. They've been victimized for years by the pastor, abused physically, emotionally, sexually, i.e. rape. Non-consensual sex is rape. Yes, a husband can rape his wife. They are trustee board members, steward board members. So I'm just always appalled when I listen to these women say to me, Dr. Hodges, I don't want people to know this about him. I don't want him to be embarrassed.
But he's hurting you.
And I say that to them. I say, he's really hurting you and you're concerned about what people are going to say about him? Well, we've been together so long, and then I don't know what my adult children are going to think about their dad after this. Well, have you thought about the fact that he could actually, he could take your life? I mean, this could get so progressive that he could kill you. I don't want to say that all the time, but sometimes when I see her wrestling with, what do I do? What do I do? Now, I'm not a counselor. I listen, and sometimes I will triage and I'll say, are you sure you are ready to move forward? Because moving forward at that point means you're going to be handed over to our coordinator who's going to schedule you for counseling. We have 6 licensed counselors at Still I Rise who are independent contractors. These persons have their own counseling services, but they work for Still I Rise in an independent contractor capacity. And we compensate them based on what the government gives us through our grants that we get from the government.
Well, tell us, what exactly made you decide to start this organization? Why did you feel that there was a need in the county?
Well, why did I feel there was a need, first of all? In the county, it just happened to be where I lived, because had I lived someplace else, I probably would have done the same thing. But my sister's husband in 2000 tried to take her life in the presence of her then 5-year-old son and 3-year-old daughter. He literally tried to kill her. He tried to kill her. And I think that I saw the potential for abuse before that happened, but I couldn't get her to see it. She couldn't see what I saw. What she saw was a man that she actually believed that she loved and that she had been with through college, and she thought that this was her life partner. But I saw control way back when she told me that after majoring in biology, she wasn't going to go to medical school because he didn't want her to. She'd always talked about being a physician. And I said, are you sure you're going? Why is it that he doesn't want you to do that? Well, he doesn't know how it would feel to him to introduce me as a physician. And he dropped out of college. He didn't graduate. And he doesn't really have a college degree. So I said, but he can go back and get one. It's not too late. This is years ago.
Well, what ultimately happened?
She came home from work one day. She was late. She got home. Typically, she was living in Northern Virginia, and she would usually get home about 6, but she had worked overtime. She did call and say that she was going to be late, so he had picked up the kids. Both the kids were there. When she walked in the door, I'm home, dropped her briefcase. He grabbed her, shoved her against the wall, started banging her head against the wall. He broke her leg and her arm on the right side. And he began to punch her and, you know, was really trying to kill her. And she said to her son, call 911. He was 5 years old, and he dialed 911, and the police came, and they took him away. So that was their memory of their dad. Now, we got through that, but she wouldn't get counseling. And I begged and I pleaded with her to do that, but she wouldn't. This was 2000. She divorced him almost immediately. But then in 2006, she remarried. And she married another man that was just like the first one. He didn't physically abuse her, but he would psychologically, emotionally, every opportunity got in the presence of people, using bad words, you're worthless, you know, you're this, you're nothing, you make me sick, that kind of stuff in the presence of people. So it was another unhealthy relationship. And I told her, I said, you can't stay with him. So they were only married for 2 years, and so I saw this cycle repeating itself, and I didn't know, what I didn't know was whether she was profiling herself a certain way or whether she was attracted to a certain kind of man who saw in her what she didn't see in herself. Ultimately, the counselor identified that it was an esteem issue. It was a self-esteem issue.
So at what point did you say, I want to start this organization to help other women who have been through what my sister
In 2001.
went through?
In 2001, I started Still I Rise. We actually received 501c3 status in 2006. I started it just by doing awareness kinds of sessions in my community in Clinton. So I would call together people and I would ask, can I use the community center in your neighborhood to talk about a problem that I'm sure you would be familiar with once we start discussing it. So it was really info sessions, and then District 5 Coffee Club, and I was really involved in Prince George's County activity at the time. I presently serve on the Redevelopment Authority Board and the Domestic Violence Coordinating Council, Prince George's County Human Trafficking Commission. So I'm involved in county stuff anyway. So in 2001, I started my efforts, and then in 2006, I actually got the organization's nonprofit status, and then my sister, the same sister, who's now getting better, I can see it, she's getting better, very smart woman, has since gotten her MBA. She no longer lives in this area, she lives somewhere else, but she is also a grant writer, and she started helping me kind of pull it together, and she got us funded through our first grant with Department of Justice Office of Violence Against Women. We got a grant in 2010 for $299,000 for 2 years, 2010 to 2012. Then in 2012, we got that same grant again for $299,000 from 2012 to 2014. And then in 2014, we got another grant from DOJ, OVW, Department of Justice Office of Violence Against Women, for $300,000 from 2014 to 2017. So we've applied now for the cycle coming up, which would be in October. I think that's when funding is.
Well, I've got to at least touch on the issue of trafficking. Who would have thought
I know, right?
that something like that would be
come
going
to
on?
Prince
And
George's
tell us, because a lot of people don't understand exactly what that is.
Trafficking is very serious in Prince George's County. We have put together at the county execs, I think his initiation, the Prince George's County Human Trafficking Task Force, which is headed by Mike Lowes. He is the actual chair. And then there are several subgroups that work under that umbrella. I chair the Victim Services Committee. There's Victim Services, there's legislation, there's PR, there's support services, those kinds of committees.
Well, what kind of trafficking is going on?
Sex
Because a lot of
trafficking.
people don't understand. What exactly does that mean? Are we
Definition.
talking about prostitution? What are we talking about?
Sex trafficking is actually the transporting of an individual to a specific area for the purpose of sex acts, sexual kinds of, usually is deviant sexual kinds of things. We have our biggest hub for, and transporting is real important because these are not women who are on the prowl. They're not prostitutes who are out street walking. These are women who are brought to this area for that particular reason. Our biggest hub is right out on 95 by University of Maryland, in that area.
And so what's happening? These women are brought to this area, then what happens?
Then they are put up in hotels, designated hotels that we actually watch, and I won't disclose those hotels, but they're put up in hotels and they are paid whatever the pimp or John or whatever they're called, the person who actually has the control over them, because sex trafficking is about domination and control. So they're put up in these hotels for a period of time, and they are given just bare necessity as far as food, clothing, shelter, that kind of thing is concerned. You wouldn't see them out walking the street. They would just be in the hotels, and they actually would be put in a position where they are set up for a particular client at a particular time. What we're finding is that a lot of the sex trafficking is going on in massage parlors, the massage areas, some nail salons, where they have transported these women in here, typically Asian Pacific Islanders.
That was my next question. Where are these women coming from?
Asian Pacific Islands. Taiwan, Vietnam, Bangkok, a lot of them from Bangkok. They're Chinese, Asian descent, those kind of women. But then we have African American women as well.
Who are being transported to these hotels as well.
And we have a number of children. We have a number of children that are being trafficked. These are kids literally under the age of 15. They are a lot of same-sex trafficking. Older men wanting young boys. Typically men, not so much women with women, but men with men.
So are you working with law enforcement?
Yes, we are. We are working directly with law enforcement, with Prince George's County Police. They have a task force, working directly with them. We get calls. I'll get a call at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and the particular sergeant who calls me, detective, sorry about that, who calls me, he'll say, Dr. Hodges, I have a victim that we need to move right now, i.e. she's gotten up enough nerve to leave the hotel and she needs a place to go. She needs a place to stay. So I will get up and I will go to one of our hotels where we have a relationship, and I will get a room in the name of Still I Rise, and then they will transport the person anonymously to the hotel. They enter the side door and then they go up to the room. The next day we will process them, i.e. find out where you come from, do you want to go back home, how can we help you, trying to rebuild your life. What I have discovered, and this is true with domestic violence too, everybody who says they're ready to leave, they're not really ready to leave, because they fear the lack of somebody telling them what to do. They fear that independence that they suddenly have. The last situation that I actually supported financially, got the room and everything, she was brought by the detective to the hotel. We got her placed at about 10 that night. So the next morning, typically what I'll do is go over, introduce myself, and let her know what the next step is going to be. And sometimes the detective will go with me, or he'll go first, or whatever. But in this particular case, they didn't call me at 3 o'clock when she slipped out of the hotel. But she got there at 10. At 3 o'clock, the camera shows her going out the side door, the same door she had come in. She slipped out. Now this particular hotel that we use is gated, and she actually had to get through the gate. I don't know how she did that. I don't know if she climbed it, but we don't know that. But the actual camera shows her going out the side, and the cab picked her up on the other side. I guess it was a cab, I'm not sure. But when I went up to the room the next morning, they said to me, Dr. Hodges, we don't believe she's there. I said, sure she is. Where else could she be? The bed had never been slept in. She hadn't even used the
Like
room.
you said, they fear the independence
They
that they
do.
suddenly have.
The worst, probably the most significant memory of a DV situation, domestic violence situation, where that happened. She was at a hotel and she had 4 children, and we had gotten her set up. She had 2 suites actually, because everybody had their own space and the kids were so excited, and she was so happy. We had gotten all kinds of food, and I said to her, the only thing I ask of you is not to contact the abuser. That's the only thing we're asked. Get a good night's sleep. They were supposed to have been there for 4 days. We had a really good relationship with this particular hotel. And I think we placed them at about 5 o'clock that afternoon. Before I got to my office, which is only like 15 minutes from where she was placed, I got a call from the manager saying to me, Dr. Hodges, she's going to have to leave. I said, what are you talking about? Those kids. He said, I am so sorry. She's going to have to leave. I said, why? He said, the abuser is here as we speak. I've already called 911, and he's threatening people and all kinds of stuff, and he was just really, really acting out of order. So she had to leave. And she called us and asked if I could relocate her in another hotel. I said, no, ma'am. No, ma'am, I can't. You're not ready. What we can provide for you is free counseling to help you get to the place where you should be, so that when you walk away, you can really walk away.
You know, I love the name of the organization, Still I Rise. That, of course, comes from
Maya
Angelou.
That's right.
And it's, as a matter of fact, it is like my favorite
Poem
of all times.
Really?
Yes, it is.
Can you
It is so powerful.
But can you listen to her recite it without just crying?
No.
Oh my goodness. Nobody talks like she. Oh, like Maya, go girl, go.
And it's just the words are just words to live by. They're just so incredibly powerful.
I think that the whole notion of when you think about rising, I mean, you may crush me with your words. You may write me down in history with your dirty, crooked lies. You know, all of that. How she phrases what she says, I can feel that, and I can think about that. And I saw that with my sister, how she has risen from whence she came, with respect to her own story. She's now a survivor. And her story is very compelling, but she says now she doesn't want to tell it anymore. So
now, you, as we mentioned earlier in the show, not only does Still I Rise provide counseling for these women, there is also a health facility attached to this.
Yes, ma'am.
Where you give services in a lot of different areas.
Yes, ma'am. That's it's a DBA, doing business as. It's Still I Rise, doing business as the Women's Wellness Center. We have the same EIN number. It's a not-for-profit clinic, but it's revenue generating. The idea was originally to have the clinic generate resources to take care of Still I Rise, the organization, the empowerment organization. We use insurance companies, so anybody can be seen there. It's not just for victims of abuse. Anybody can be seen.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, we take everybody's insurance. We even take TRICARE. We take military insurance. We're staffed by a physician, a nurse practitioner, a medical assistant, a biller, a practice administrator.
So full service.
Full service clinic. That's what it is.
In wrapping up our discussion this morning, how can you take us out of here positively?
Well, here's what I would say. Where you are is not where you have to stay. God has given all of us what we need inside of us to be who we want to be. You don't let anybody take that from you. You don't let anybody redefine that. You have that inside of you. That's an arsenal. If you recognize, it's like I used to tell my sister, you're better than that. You are better than that. It's not what folk call you, is what you answer to. So if they call you something and that is not who you are, you ignore it. You typically ignore that. If they describe you in a way and that's not what you are and to whom you relate, you ignore that.
And there's still hope after that relationship.
Absolutely.
You can have a life
Yes,
after that experience.
absolutely. That's why we take you from being a victim to a survivor. And I say that we're helping you, these women, the victims, rebuild their lives one woman at a time. Your story is not my story, is not my sister's story. But at the end of the day, still we rise, all of us.
And we will give all of the information for the clinic, for Still I Rise, for you during the credits, so that people who are interested, and it's just South County that we're dealing with? Or?
No, we deal with the entire county. I serve all 9 districts. We're located in South County, but we have women who come to us from every single district. Most of our victims, survivors, clients come from District 7, 8, and 9.
Very good, very good. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
To talk to you today.
Thank you so much.
We've been talking to Dr. Glenda Hodges of my favorite line of all, Still I Rise.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
we've been discussing domestic violence and sex trafficking. And if you need help, please, that is what she's here for. I really want to bring awareness.
Yes,
to
that's
this
what
issue.
we want to do. We don't want you to suffer in silence. As Nelson Mandela said about AIDS, the worst thing you can do is be silent. So we've even gone to churches, and we have a little palm card that's in the vestibule. You can just pick it up. Nobody has to see you. Put it in your purse. Keep it moving.
Thank you so much for watching. This is Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. You've been watching the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. Have a great day.